If you're into ripping your physical media and setting up a local playback server with a NAS or something along those lines, there was some not so great news today. Word went out to the dealer network. I guess the information has been posted around online. I think there's been musings about this for a little while, but essentially Zappiti is going under. Zappiti is shutting down its operations, closing its doors. Of course, over the years, there's been a number of ways to play rips, going back all the way to, I think, what was the heyday of playing ripped local media, which was the jailbroken Oppo players. Zappiti has been a mainstay for a long while now, up there with Dune, Zidu, and some others as well. I have used Zappiti players in the past. In fact, I had a very sizable 12-bay Synology loaded with ripped physical media at one point in time, so I do consider the news to be pretty sad. And speaking as an engineer, speaking as somebody that works in tech, I hope if there's layoffs, if people are forced out of their positions looking for new work, I hope everybody lands on their feet. Folks find lucrative new jobs in relatively short order, and everybody ends up okay as a result. To quote just a couple things from the notice that went out, it's been posted around a couple of web forums that I visit. They do specifically announce that Zappiti will be over soon. Zappiti Video will no longer work for the players or the NAS. Zappiti has been liquidated. They tried everything to continue, but have been shut down for good. There are some things afoot, I think, to kind of keep some of the functionality limping along. We'll see what all the particulars and the specifics and such that come out of that are. But I just wanted to comment, I don't think enough people ask the question, what happens when your locally ripped media server setup system goes down? To me, I found that there's quite a lot of failure modes along the path of ripping physical media, setting up these servers and all of that. And I wanted to use this opportunity to kind of reiterate on those and maybe draw some attention to the idea that as much as some folks are concerned about the stability of Kaleidescape, I think there's a whole lot more risk to the long-term future and the longevity of doing the ripped media route. Starting with the idea that right off of the bat, if you can't get the content, you can't rip it. So as we see physical media somewhat diminishing, we see production facilities for physical media closing down, we see Disney pulling physical media out of certain markets and all of that. We see a lot more releases of 4K content on digital and for iTunes, Vudu and the like, as well as Kaleidescape, versus what we see released on disc. Right off the bat, if that flow of content slows down, you can have all the other elements in place, but your ability to build a really great custom ripped, custom operated media server goes right out the window if you can't get your hands on the content. Second, if you can't actually decrypt, break the copy protection, and do the things that are necessary to be able to get those bits off of a disk and put them on to a local hard drive, the whole procedure, the whole process of ripping media and setting up a local playback server is defunct as well. And that's happened over the years. When we made the transition from HD Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray, there was a period of time, a substantial number of months there, where the future was uncertain. Were we even going to be able to rip 4K discs? Eventually, as we know, through some turmoil and some attempts and a couple of different methodologies and steps along the way, that was eventually accomplished, and 4K Blu-rays are able to be ripped to ISOs and MKV files and so on. But we're just another copy protection change, another copy protection revision away, or from that whole process being able to do what it needs to do to let you take those bits and move them to some other type of storage. Part and parcel with that, if the tools that you use to rip your physical media, to get the bits off the disk to a hard drive, fall apart, go away, get taken down, get shut down, you're out of luck as well. And that's happened in the past too. Over many years of actually doing things in that side of the hobby. We've seen software go down, we've seen software come back. Make MKV has been a stalwart, but I still think there exists risk that if the right attention is given from the wrong, quote unquote wrong folks, to any of these software applications, the legalities are worked through. Some of them are offshore from the US, and they do certain things in order to stay alive and stay in operation. All it takes is the removal of a tool, the shutdown of a tool permanently, to be able to significantly break the process of getting those bits to your local storage. Then let's talk about the storage. You have a NAS, you have storage, which is an array of drives. You're probably running some kind of RAID. You want to at least have one disk worth of parity protection, if not ideally two, but that's just protection. That's not redundancy. That's not a one-for-one backup. If you've got a very large local ripped media server, odds are I would guess you're probably not backing it up one-for-one. And even if you are, you might even be backing it up locally in the same place. That means that you're ripe for physical risks, physical catastrophes. If one or two or more of those drives goes down, your entire data set, essentially in a RAID array, is gone and unrecoverable. Flood, fire, theft, right? All of those kind of physical things, electrical surge could destroy this server, rip all of the information off of it essentially, and lose it forever. And all of those many, many hours of time spent meticulously ripping content, tweezing out MKBs, setting up subtitles, and all the like just literally goes out the window. And then lastly, of course, the situation that we're in right now, you need to have something to be able to play those rips. There's a lot of solutions for this. So this is the one where we actually do have a number of options in this hobby. We have hardware players like Dune, Zidu, formerly now Zappiti. We've got software players like Plex and Infuse, Kodi, and others. But I would be interested to learn, I don't know the details of what was behind this Zappiti closure. Was it a business closure? Was it a cash flow issue, like a business operational issue? Or was there some pressure put on them? Were they actually shut down by some forces because of the things that the player does? They were already forced a little while ago to stop selling their NAS in the US markets. So let's say certain forces were already pretty well aware of the company and some of the things that they were doing. Maybe those forces didn't stop with trying to kick the NAS out of being sold in the US, and they went kind of whole hog and put their pressure and their leverage on the company altogether. And if we extrapolate a little bit from there, how do we know that those same forces now, after having taken care of Zappiti, aren't going to also put some of their attention on Zidu and some of the other potential hardware or software applications that let you play that type of ripped physical media? So you bring all of this stuff together, and I hope folks that are going down this route, that have built big libraries, have thought about some of the contingencies and the choices and what they may do, let's say, if something catastrophic happens to their plan, to their workflow, and all of that for setting up and enjoying their media. Of course, if you have the discs, you can get a disc player for the time being. At least you've got a fallback plan for the majority of what we've talked about. Again, until the time comes where the movie that you really want to watch it in the highest fidelity, isn't released on physical media, isn't released in 4K. I looked at this process myself. Again, for a long time, I was doing this stuff. I had a 12-bay Synology. I had it loaded with content, all of my physical media collection and so on. And I kind of came to a realization that, like, this really isn't going to be the long-term future. I don't think this is a clear way to go for the long term. And so I made my decision to transition over to Kaleidescape nigh on 5 years ago. I sold that former Synology that I had. I wiped all of that content away. Of course, you do see a Synology sitting in my rack right now, but I can tell you that NAS is not there loaded up with rips. It's used for managing and backing up content for the YouTube channel. It backs up my other cloud storages, personal files, family photos, things like that. There is some content, media content, TV show and movie content, of course, stored on that NAS, because let's face it, there is content that hasn't made its way to digital formats yet. There's plenty of content out there that's not available on Kaleidescape. There's content that's been released on physical media that isn't even available in the bigger stores like iTunes. And so I do like to keep some of my old favorites, some classic things that may at this point have really been lost to time, available to me in residence somewhere where I've got a little protection and a little assurance that if I wanted to watch those things I could. So I only consider really ripping physical media and keeping some media content storage applicable for that specific reason. But I'm building my library of content, my forward-thinking library of content digitally nowadays, doing it with iTunes and doing it with Kaleidescape. I personally also had come to a realization some time ago that I just don't have the time to do all of that kind of stuff. I would much, much rather spend that time doing other things, and I found myself spending a lot of time making MKVs and tweezing out content and processing disks and so on. And I'm happy to have removed that from my life some many years ago. And with the risk factors and the increasing news that we see coming out, I just couldn't imagine either starting down that path today or really ever being interested in going back to it again. So sound off in the comments. What does Zappiti going away mean to your content? Do you have a ripped DIY media server? Were you using a Zappiti player? What's your contingency? What are you going to do now? Sound off in the comments and let's discuss. And I'll give you the recommendation. I walked the path. I've been there. I've done all the different things in the past. And this is really what I enjoy in my home theater right now, Kaleidescape. If you're interested now with the demise of Zappiti to make that transition over into a Kaleidescape system, reach out to me, let me know. I've got a bunch of great friends in the business that sell these, referrals for them. Look down in the description, easy right there. Audio Advice, of course, sells Kaleidescape. Ryan at Ascend AV, right online at Audio Advice. If you're calling either of those places, do let them know that Jeremy Pyle, Techthusiasm, referred you. And for any new Kaleidescape customers in the US, if you use my referral code when you set up your account, you and I will both get a mutual $100 of movie store credit in the platform. I think there's a lot of virtues to Kaleidescape. I think there's way more virtues to Kaleidescape than the kind of old ripped media server route. And I've been very happy with my transition and my path now for the last 5-ish years. I think this is a topic we'll definitely be diving into in a future live stream. So stay tuned and we'll see what's next for our hobby and the folks that are into the ripping physical media DIY server scene. Please do all that regular YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video, leave comments, let's discuss, and come on back for more home theater discussion and fun. Although, granted, there's been more fun days in our hobby than the days when we lose companies, when we lose products, and that. So no matter what, at the end, it's a sad day in many respects. And again, my best wishes to the folks that may be unemployed and looking for new opportunities. As a result of this, I hope everybody lands on their feet. Thanks.